Today I will be doing a speech on climate change. NASA states in their article, The Effects of Climate Change, that temperatures will continue to rise for decades to come if humans continue to do the activities that create greenhouse gases. Climate change is the answer to a lot of the crazy weather that we've been having, and Nebraska is one of the states that have been affected by this weather due to the flooding in March of 2019, which caused a lot of havoc for people with destroying infrastructures. We also ask a lot of questions about what we're going to do when it comes to climate change, and a lot of states have a plan set, but Nebraska is one state that doesn't. We also need to understand that there needs to be a change if we want to see a future, and that what we do affects our world, and the evidence is starting to show that it's affecting it negatively. NASA also states that the surface temperature has been rising since the 19th century by 1.62 degrees, largely due to the increasing amount of CO2 created by human activities. In 2016, we had one of the warmest years that was recorded, which caused for the oceans to begin to warm and ice to melt. Gravity recovery and climate experiment shows that Greenland lost almost 286 billion tons of ice, and Antarctica lost 127 billion tons of ice between the years of 1993 and 2016, and it has tripled in the last decade. We've also seen an increase in rainfall, which has led to a lot of flooding in a lot of states, but with that increase in some of those states, other states are losing their precipitation, which is causing them to go into a drought situation. And the oceans are beginning to become acidic, and it has been increasing by 30%. And the CO2 is causing this to be absorbed on the upper layer, which has been increasing by 2 billion tons per year. Some of the causes of climate change are greenhouse gases such as water vapor, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide and methane. Water vapor is the most abundant source of greenhouse gases, but it also acts as a feedback for the earth, but the other gases create more of a force for climate change. CO2 is one of the bigger gases that we hear about, which is created through respiration, deforestation, land use changes, and the burning of fossil fuels, which has increased by one third since the Industrial Revolution has started. Methane is a hydrocarbon gas that is created by natural sources and human activities, such as the decomposition of waste in landfills, manure, and rice cultivation. And nitrous oxide is another gas that is created through fertilizer, fossil fuels combustion, such as coal and oil. The burning of oil and coal makes CO2 increase a lot more, and the cleaning of lands for ag and industries is creating more CO2 due to the machines that are used. Some of the effects that will be seen throughout climate change is that temperatures will continue to rise, and it will not be easy for us to conform to those temperatures. And we'll have a frost-free season and a longer growing season, which will help the farmers to a point, but it can also affect them negatively by the temperatures rising and burning up the crops. We may also see more droughts and heat waves, which will cause reduction of soil moisture, which can also affect our farmers due to the plants not getting the right nutrition. Hurricanes may also be stronger and more intense, like we have seen in the recent hurricanes, such as Hurricane Harvey that happened in 2018. The sea levels will continue to rise by 1 to 4 feet by the year of 2100 due to the ice and expansion of waterways. The effects on the Midwest will be the extreme heat, heavy downpours, and flooding, which will affect infrastructures. The health side may be affected. The ag and forestry and transportation will be affected, and air and water quality is going to be affected. And according to DenShark, that more severe weather will create higher death rates, dirtier air, and higher extinction rates for wildlife. And according to Schneider's article, the implications of climate change on ecosystems and wildlife, the climate change is affecting Nebraska as the temperatures rise, and the change in precipitation, frequency and intensity of storms, flooding, droughts, and wildfires are also creating a negative effect on our wildlife and ecosystems. Many species are shifting in Nebraska, and we'll lose some of the species that we have seen recently, and we will be gaining other species from the south states as they try to migrate up. We also will see a change of land and will not allow animals to adapt. So as we continue to build roads and other buildings, these animals aren't going to be able to escape from the temperatures that they cannot survive in. We also are affecting the timing of annual events such as migration of birds, the migration of insects, and flowering and planting for farmers because the temperatures are rising and the crops aren't going to be growing as well. It can also affect human health due to the extreme weather causing more injuries. We can have more heat waves, which will cause strokes, asthma, delirium, or it can even possibly put people in a coma or cause heart failure, or it can also damage our crops. The forest and prairie fires that we had back in 2012 have created worse air quality and have caused people to evacuate and even injured very few people, but it's still a concern for many people. It can also affect the mental health of many people due to the fact of losing their homes, family members, and many other items that are close to them. It can cause them to start having depression, kind of like how this flooding has affected our farmers with their farmland, with all the sand growing up or falling on it and not allowing them to grow there anymore. According to Awada, Brozak, and Koalish, in their article, the Ag, Food, and Water with the Effects of Climate Change, the crop production is going to start lowering and the yield of crops are going to be a lot tougher because you're not going to be able to grow as much. There are also going to be a lot more diseases that are coming our way due to the higher temperature, but with all the precipitation, it'll cause for muggier seasons, which will allow mosquitoes to increase. And according to the state risks, or the states at risk, the extreme weather is that within 15 days, or Nebraska had 15 days where the temperatures reach extreme and dangerous levels, but by 2050, it's projected to see 40 more days of higher temperatures and more dangerous temperatures. Our summers are a lot muggier, and which is creating for more mosquitoes. Nebraska will also be in risk of drought by 2050 with an increase of 70%. We've also seen the winter precipitation is more rain than it is snow anymore, which creates people at risk of inland flooding. According to Schlup, he stated in his article about Nebraska declining their plan for climate change that Nebraska is 1 out of 7 states to not have a plan. And according to Senator Patty Pansing, says that winging it is not going to be a choice anymore due to the fact that it's getting bad and we're not going to be able to stop it if we don't make a change now. She also offered UNL $250,000 to develop a plan for climate change and how we're going to adapt and mitigate the effects. She plans to submit this plan to the legislature by December 15 of 2020. The plan would require officials to estimate Nebraska's total greenhouse gas emissions and outline a goal to reduce them. We also need to identify the positive and negatives on the economy and drill down on how it affects farms, ranches, water, public health, and energy. We've also seen in Nebraska, they've had flooding in 2011 and 2012. We had major drought contribution to 1,600 wildfires, and in 2019 we had another flood that caused a lot of damage to our infrastructures and a lot of our roadways and bridges. according to the Land Trust Alliance, it's very important that we start making this change, but it's not going to be easy. And some of the conservation strategies used in the past are still able to be used now and have been effective in the past. But if the reason we need to start caring now is because we're not going to have a future if we don't start changing. As climate change takes its toll on humankind, we will see changes in our weather, health, and overall life. It not only affects our state, but our world as a whole. We must open our eyes to the negative effects we are causing and realize that it needs to change. Understanding the effects of the climate change and the steps on how to reverse climate change will help our world heal and allow for a future for our younger generations.